Right, Ed, before we move on to other technologies, other solutions, energy solutions to replace nuclear power, perhaps you could just finish off but say, how are we going to save the Pacific Ocean?
Well, just to finish up the part of the Fukushima disaster
Right.
is actually on the design. It's a lot on human error, and the way we designed the nuclear power station. I don't know how they did it, but the release valve was found on the bottom, and it's so difficult to find. And it was in the highly radiated, so they really lost a lot of time. And the second valve is up in another place. So why is it designed like that? You know, if it should be designed on a safety level, like if this failed, you have an override. And it should not be very far from the control. It should be a button, push button thing. No, they had to manually override it, and
It sounds to me
difficult.
that they didn't spend enough time on actually making sure that the energy supply was safe. And also there was no readiness for disasters.
Exactly. Most of our nuclear plant station in the whole world, they were not prepared for heavy disasters like this. So they are all ticking bombs.
They must all be ticking bombs.
It's
So
all ticking
they
bombs.
should all be replaced by alternative energy sources.
Look, Carl, if one Fukushima power plant could kill an entire Pacific Ocean,
Yes.
how many nuclear plants in Japan, 54, unstable, built on the Ring of Fire, and how many in the world?
Yes.
So that means the future of our ocean is gone.
Is there a plan that you're aware of to actually get rid of all nuclear stations globally, or is that just done country by country?
You know how will it take for a nuclear plant to be decommissioned? That means to take off all the toxic part of it.
Yes.
40 to 100 years.
Ugh. So
And
better
Fukushima
start
is very
quickly.
big.
Yes,
Fukushima is
maybe.
one of the biggest ones. 40 to 100 years. That is, if there was no explosion, and because of the radiation, nobody could go closer to it.
What do you do with what do you do with the nuclear waste? How do you actually recycle it, or what do you actually do with the
It's
nuclear
actually
waste?
the most dangerous part, and they were not mentioned in the cost of building a thing. The nuclear waste are mainly containing a lot of plutonium.
Yes.
This is the most toxic chemical we ever created on this planet. And they're kept on metal drums, and that's good for 15 years. And I don't have an image of Fukushima, but they had accumulated a lot of this water, radiated water, into big containers, and it's filling up the whole Fukushima already. And they were even planning to dump that in the ocean.
That's the last thing in the world you want to do, because the Pacific, as you were explaining, is already dying anyway. To see what sort of effect has it had on fish, mammals, and things like coral to date that you're aware of?
Oh, it's disastrous. Of course, this is the reason why, bleaching of the corals, because the temperature of the ocean is heating up. Remember,
Yes.
radiation, nuclear is warm, it's heat. So, and of course, acidity and all of that. So, the effect on the climate change, on the level of climate change, you kill a lot of marine life. It will release methane and carbon dioxide. The ocean is supposed to be absorbing carbon dioxide, but this time it's going to be releasing carbon dioxide in a massive scale. That's why when the last time I talked about climate change, when the World Economic Forum declared that we only have 3 years left to solve climate change because of the Fukushima.
How about consumption of fish that's caught in the Pacific, that's sold at the markets? What will happen to the people that consume this fish, for example?
Well, depends on the tuna. Tuna,
Yeah.
they go against the current. They
Yes.
travel everywhere. And you cannot really predict where they're coming from. So it's not anymore safe.
Right.
I would already tell the people not to
Eat tuna.
choose your tuna anymore, depending where it's coming from. When a fish passes a reef, for example, that's radiated, just passing it, you don't have to touch the reef. You get the radiation. And that fish, a small fish, eaten by the tuna,
Yes.
is transferring the radiation of the
Into
tuna.
the big fish.
And then the tuna, eaten by human being, is
Yes.
also transferred to human being. So there is a minimal reduction of radiation.
Is there a test you can do on the fish that is caught to see whether...
Oh yeah, you have to have this nuclear
Has that been
meter.
done? Are they doing that?
Wow, you tell me in the Philippines we don't even know how it looks like one.
But there's no, but you could do it at centralized fishing ports, for example.
Yeah, that should be
Like General
done.
Santos and places like
exactly.
that.
These are the solutions we should be doing. But right now, the most urgent thing we have to do is to trace where exactly the radiation is going through, because
Yes.
it's on the way now to the Philippines.
So a fishing boat could catch a mixture of tuna. Some have got high radiation, some have got low radiation,
They would
depending on where they were caught.
You wouldn't know unless you have a. This is the problem with radiation. You can't see it, you can't smell it,
Right.
you can't even taste it.
So it's very tough to do.
It's a very thing. It's not like the oil spill. They don't mix with water. Either they sink or they float. It's easier to handle. But radiation.
So the only way you could do it is have like a giant scanning device and scan every single fish that comes in. And the cost of doing that makes the fish so expensive because the cost will be passed on to the consumer.
Yeah. Well, the solution for that is on the 3 levels. Now, if we're coming to solution, the first thing we have to do is first get everybody to talk about this, because it's being there's been a lot of cover up. A lot of our politics, our leaders are not even aware of it. That's why they're pushing the Bataan nuclear plant. First, we have to be aware. Where is it exactly? How damage has been killing the Pacific Ocean? We need to have a data, and we have to know how does nuclear waste behave in the water, in
Yes.
seawater. We don't know.
You don't know, right?
So after that, the next one would be how do we clean it up? There are algae. There are certain organisms that could eat microorganisms. There are a group of people called they call them the Agnihotra. With a ritual, they could reduce the radiation. I know some people who does it in the Philippines, even in Japan. There's so many actually solutions. Only if we focus on it rather than hiding the damage. And the third part would be to back up the marine life right now, before it's too late. Because the Coral Triangle is the breeding ground of the marine life.
Yes.
The Great Barrier Reef, the biggest living organism in the world.
Yeah.
If that's hit, then good night, everyone. So, the backup of marine life
Yeah.
could only be done in a massive scale using the inland sea. If we have a picture of Palawan, there is an area there. It's called the Malampaya Sound. A Malampaya Sound, it looks like a bit Manila Bay with a small opening and then a large inland sea.
Right.
So if you can enclose that opening, you could allow the boat to sail up. It's going to be called a gate bridge. You know, a gate, you can still use the bridge and you can open it for navigation. But the moment there is a radiation, you will close it down so the radiation will not be going in. So you can back up all the marine life and protect what's inside. This project, I call it the Genesis Palawan project.
Is it being done now, as we speak?
Actually, I won an award for that from the French Ministry of Environment last year.
Good.
I'm waiting for the funds to come.
You just got an award, but no money to go with it.
Yeah.
But to do that, you've got the idea on how to do it. But is anybody doing it yet? Are they doing it yet?
This is the problem. They are so focused on the problem, they very little on the solution. I wish I could. This is an opportunity for me to share it to public, because I really would like to focus on solution, but I didn't get enough support from the media because they are really covering it up. I'm so grateful for the GNN that they're allowing this kind of subject, which is very critical for awareness, and so we'll be able to do our right decision.
Good.
This is the reason why I came here, because we have a solution. If we have I think Fukushima, we have to act now, because in these coming 2 years, it's going to be too late.
What will be the cost, apart from long term? What will be the physical cost for the next 5 years to implement a solution?
Well, my project in Palawan, the Malampaya Sound, it's called the Genesis Palawan project.
Right.
To close that gate bridge, I was calculating $100 million.
Right.
And the startup, and then to collect the marine life before the Fukushima radiation comes into the Philippines, we could already put more life in there. Like a huge aquarium.
So once you've done that, but you're still surrounded by quote unquote dirty water. you're talking about the rest of the ocean around this area has been affected and is, let's say, quasi dying. But you've got your little lake here,
Yeah.
which is fine, where fish are still continuing to live the way they should live. At what stage is the ocean going to be ready for them to be released into the big
You
ocean?
see, this is very important. When the radiation hits the ocean, it will stay there for over 50 years to 100 years.
There you go.
So it's the end of everyone, unless you have a backup. And this genetic backup is so important. It's like Noah's Ark, no?
Yeah, yeah.
He tried to save all the land animals. This one is saving land, human beings, trees, and even the fish.
So your lake or protected sea area would have to continue to be protected for 50 years
Yes. it has been
until the
closed.
the rest of the ocean would have quietened down or would have.
It depends, you see, because I have another solution to reduce the radiation in the ocean using algae and to absorb it, no?
Right.
Or you can even deviate the incoming radiation to somewhere else, which doesn't, like for example, protecting the Great Barrier Reef. And you know, the only thing I have to do or prove is that this module of a backup is feasible. You know how many inland sea we have in the Coral Triangle? Indonesia, Malaysia, and
A lot.
I counted about 36,
Yeah,
even
must be a
bigger
lot.
the one
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
Palawan.
Yes.
So if I could show them, I could prove them, hey, this is possible, we could protect it from the radiation.
So you've got multiple inland lakes. That
Oh
you
yeah,
can protect.
immediately they will copy it.
How about the larger fish, like the dolphins, the
Yeah,
sharks,
okay.
and the whales? How would you protect them?
Well, you know, the advantage of the Malampayan Sound, there are so many coves, about 32 coves.
Right.
So of course you will not mix shark with the rest of the turtle or anything that we eat. You really want to propagate them before you make them eat them
Yes.
each other. So you have to keep them in a cove.
Yes.
There's a cove for sharks. There's a cove for dolphins. There's a cove for, but sardines can flow everywhere.
Yeah.
So this is the important configuration. And the Malampayan Sound is actually 34 kilometers long, 17 kilometers wide. So it's really a huge
huge.
aquarium if you
Yeah,
think
yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But the one in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Australia are 20 times, 30 times bigger. So all we need is to create a model. If this model proves that it is possible, the rest of the world will follow. And you know the biggest one? The biggest inland sea in Europe?
Mediterranean.
The Mediterranean. And you know what Mediterranean is? It's ready. It's ready to be closed because the Suez Canal has
Yeah.
already a gate.
Yes.
The only remaining gate to close is the one from Gibraltar,
Yeah.
and it's about 12 kilometers long.
And it's about 12 kilometers. I was born in Gibraltar, by the way.
Yeah, Gibraltar, yeah.
So, but the currents are very strong there.
Yes, of
Extremely
course.
strong
You
there.
know, the European, the technology we have, they will do anything to protect Mediterranean.
Yes.
And not only you will be able to protect Mediterranean from the radiation, you could also protect it from sea level rise.
And the Mediterranean has all types of fish.
Oh, yeah.
Including great whites.
Yeah, it's huge. And not only that,
But no
if you-
whales, I know.
if you protect the Mediterranean,
Yes.
you're automatically protecting the Caspian Sea and the Black
Yes,
Sea,
correct.
which is another big inland sea.
Yes.
You see, Carl, it's important that this Genesis project in Palawan has to be started soon as possible.
Who's backing you today in that? Is there anybody backing you today?
Oh, I want to cry.
I'm serious. You won this award, which must have been visible in your environment. So, who is helping you? Not just in this country. Who in other countries, or what groups are trying to help you ensure that this happens?
Well, when that happened last year, you have a COP21,
Yeah.
22. It was and then there was an election in France. So there was a new leader.
Yes.
So our project was a little bit put aside.
But this new leader in France, Macron,
Macron is
he
a
will
good guy.
He is a good guy,
He's
and
my man,
he
yeah.
will support you, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a good, and even the new Minister of Environment is Nicola Hulot.
There you
He's
go.
my idol. I
There you
know
go.
he's wonderful.
They will
guy.
help you, but you have to get to these people as soon as possible to make things
As
happen
soon as
quickly.
possible. But actually, I try to organize in the Philippines this conference to put together all the.
But there are people
environmentalists.
here. Harry and I have met some of those people, who are very ecologically conscious, and they really want to help anything like that.
Yeah.
So, Have you got any support internally as well? Have
Well,
you-
I've been trying since 3 years in the Philippines. I'm having a hard
anybody,
time.
anybody here that's really got money and muscle behind that'll help you?
Not yet so far. I hope this program will reach those people who have the heart to support environmental project, and even our president and our secretary of the DNR will think about not only on the mining but also the imminent danger of climate change, the Fukushima. We need to have a backup as soon as possible.
I don't think, honestly, and I live here too, that anybody's given any thought here, apart from maybe you and a few others, about the damage of Fukushima in the Philippines.
That's the sad part.
My gut feeling is, you have to sell that somehow internally and prove it will happen,
Yeah.
and how and when it will happen. And then you need to get inside support,
Yes.
right? And then those people will have to go also outside of this country. It's not just a Philippine problem.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a Pacific, let's say it's called a Pacific problem,
Exactly.
to go and make sure it happens. I have no idea who you can go and talk to, but somebody needs to do something about it to make sure that we have no disaster in our country.
Well, the media are the key to this success of
But
this
they probably
project.
don't understand. My guess is, I mean, no disrespect to the media, they probably don't understand. You have to find some key media
Exactly.
people who will be your champions in the media. I don't know who they are, but they must exist. There must be some. You have to find those.
Yeah, well, that's the reason why we did doing this program is to create the awareness
Yes.
that there is this danger, there is a solution, and there's a need to unite, and the urgency of working together
And to switch to new technology,
and the streets, of
such
course.
as wave, tidal wave, current. We have 7,100 islands here.
Exactly.
And the currents between the islands are huge. And the currents just along Verde Island alone,
Good
if
enough.
if you are good enough to supply energy for the whole of Metro Manila.
Yes, it's very powerful, very strong current.
The only problem, which I've looked at that, is the cost of the turbines and the length of life of the turbines, because seawater is extremely corrosive.
Yeah.
And there are only I know two vendors that manufacture. One of them is General Electric, and I forget what the other one was, because they use them
I
in
hope it's at
Scotland. I'm from
Westinghouse.
Scotland, not Westinghouse. I come from Scotland, and in Scotland we use this technology.
Yes.
We use mainly tidal because of the strong tides, and it works. And basically, they've sunk in a lot of money and effort into making sure that there's no alternative to this clean energy. They won't tolerate any alternative.
Actually, Carl, that issue of duration of the tidal generator, that could easily be solved using a special paint or a different forms or a backup things. But still, we have to do it.
You have to do it.
We have no
It's
choice.
It's a no-brainer.
No,
you
but
have
yeah,
to do it.
we have to do
And
it.
in this country, you've got the sun, you've got wind. Wind, for me, it takes too much space. My
Yes.
view of wind technology, you need a lot of space for wind technology. I've flown over Spain, right, and there's tons and tons of wind turbines, and they just take up a lot of land.
For wind,
We've got them up here, haven't we, in
in
the
the
north,
yeah.
Ilocos
Pagudpud
Norte.
is very good. Yeah.
Pagudpud down there. And it's okay, because you have the space there, and it's not expensive space.
Yeah.
In Denmark, they have them in the sea,
Sure.
right, in between, in the middle of the ocean.
Right.
But there must be a better way. In my view, it's got to be solar, or it's got to be current, or current
The
technology.
solution is not solar,
Or
it's not
wave.
wind. It's the combination of all of that.
Yes,
We have to put all this together.
and make sure they become cost effective.
Yes, all of that. Because, when there's no sun, there's wind. When there's wind, there's a biomass.
The only way to get them in quickly is to get some government and some international, I don't want to say funding, like subsidy, because
Yes.
the upfront cost will kill the cost of energy.
I really think that the business sector, knowing that this could affect all of them, would be able to shift to support all this kind of renewable energy.
Companies like Aboitiz, for example,
Yes.
right, I think they would know what to do, and I hope they are looking at this already. Just to take one example, there are others as well, but I just pick on them because I know they're heavily into energy and they're looking closely at alternative energy. So, I mean, we could talk about this for hours and hours and
Oh,
days
yeah.
and days, Ed, right? So we've got two issues. We've got the existing issue of Fukushima
Yes.
and the problem, how to fix the problem and make sure the world's aware of it and does something about it.
Yeah.
Secondly, how to decommission the nuclear power plants in areas specifically where there are dangers like volcanic.
Well, we have an image here of Chernobyl. If you can show them the Chernobyl, what they did there is to create a sarcophagus. They covered the whole Chernobyl with that's the Chernobyl when it was
Okay.
hit by a thing. As you can see, it's not on the seaside. And also another mechanical, that's a sarcophagus. It's a covered, it's
Okay.
huge, just to cover it up. So it could, because since that time up to now, over 1 million people has already been dead, and it continues.
Yeah.
That's the problem with the nuclear. They don't stop. So even if you put them
You get
as a garbage
leukemia, and you get
underground,
leukemia 10 years later you die
It-
because of leukemia you
yeah.
caught from the radiation exposure.
they last for hundreds of years, and we cannot deal with that. The Earth is changing, and our energy is changing, and we cannot rely on. So Switzerland, Germany had start to decommission their nuclear power plant, and they're shifting to alternative now.
Ed, we can talk about this for days and days on end, but I'd like to thank you for coming to the show and airing your views.
Thank you, Carl.
I'd like to thank the audience for watching the show. Thank you and good night.
Good night.